it's Uncle Destiny here with you, and it's time to see what the reading for the month of September holds for everybody. Now, I want to remind everyone that this is a general reading, and it's covering all of the broad strokes of what the month holds. Now, September is also the point where we make the seasonal shift into the fall season. So we're going to be shifting soon, and that's going to be part of the energy that's happening now. So let's go ahead and get the ancestors in and see what they have to say about what September holds for everybody. Alrighty. So we've now thrown the bones, and here's our spread, which is it's much more open in some ways. This one, well, I'm going to get to what it reminds me of later. But let's just talk about what we've got going on here. We have the copper piece here. We have two of our main bones. We have the quartz piece, the shell, one of our other main bones, and our dice, showing for the number 10. So how this layout's is showing up as, this one is work, this one is family, this one is home. So we'll start with this bigger cluster here, since we have two both family and work bones here, and they are next to each other, forming this shape here, this paired shape on top of the quartz, on top of the copper piece. Now remember, copper piece is about the connection with spirit. It's the conduit. It's the energy exchange point, and that is directly on the top of home. So home is going to be very much, again, as always, a focus. And as I believe I've said in the past videos, home is not just where you physically live. Home is an emotional place. It is a spiritual place. And it is going to be bringing more energy from spirit into what is going on with home. Now, we also have the broken rib bone here going across it. So even though home is going to be important, home is going to be in a place of disruption. There's going to be strife there. And it's coming, and as you can see, it's running almost down the exact middle of the broken rib bone. So it can mean that the feelings inside the house were going to get split equally. That there are going to be those on either side of the situation inside the home. And home is going to be split. Home is going to be split emotionally, and it's going to be split physically, and it's going to be split emotionally. Now, the other factor is that the copper piece is also split. But what I'm seeing here is, if you notice, that the copper piece is disproportional. So the aspect is that spirit is, even though spirit has influence on both sides, spirit is going to be much more focused on helping those that are being hurt by it. Because you'll notice that it's next to the point of the broken rib bone, and this is for those that are going to be on the receiving end of it. Spirit is involved in all things, but it is going to be much more dealing with those who are on the receiving end. It is going to be supporting, nurturing them, more so than the ones that are going to be doing the accusing or making the gesture of whatever the strife is. But it's going to happen in your home, and it may be one of these things of part of the house or part of whatever it is you're defining for home agrees with one platform, another one agrees with the other. And at that point, it means that both, and it's not a matter of either or, it's a matter of both and. But the actions that will be taken by those who feel that they have to have a polar opposite to each other. That they have to be in this locked extreme to such an extent that they're willing to hurt others. So that's part of what's going on here with the home bone. Now, the fact that the proximity to this is also the family shows that it's an internal issue within the family as well. So family is going to be deeply tied to this. And what's more, if you notice that the position of the broken rib bone, if we were to think of this as a handle, it is towards the family. So it is likely, the question is, are we talking about the family of blood or the family of soul and intention? And there's going to be a component here where, sadly, I see the ones that are wielding this, that's going to affect the family, that's going to affect the home, is going to be coming from family. Now, why? That's an interesting question, because here's the thing. We've also got a rib bone here growing across it, and that's again inspiration, direction. But we've also got all of these other support bones here too, under the family. And that might seem like it is saying that spirit, that all of these things that are being brought, or the strife that's being brought, is around and is being supported, and in that it can be the case. It does not stipulate whether that support is about negative or positive. So, and yet over here we also have support bones, and we have much more spirit. So there's going to be an issue where there are physical and probably rational reasons for the strife, but there's also going to be spiritual support, and then two are not the same, but the two also act in different ways. I'm not sure what it is, but ultimately I will also say, because we have here the balancing, one of the parts of the tailbone coming in, balance is trying to be brought back into this. It is on its way into this structure of the family, and yet it's still got a ways to go. So this is, but it's on its way. Now, that why that may not seem like it's a good thing, it's the fact that things have been stirred up, choices have been made, and consequences have to be played out. But that doesn't mean that all of these things are necessarily just bad, 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 bad. Some of these things, sometimes the universe tears things apart so it can put things back together. And I get the sense here that some of this is about that aspect of, okay, we need to dismantle some things so that we can put them back together in a new way, in a bigger way, or a different way. Now, part of that, I think, is also what's being said here with the quartz crystal. Again, this is about memory. This is about the ideas and thoughts that have happened in the past, and they're coming back together. This is the solidified memory of what has happened. And it's here providing influence. So like I said, the family and the ones who might be bringing the strife have logic and reason. It's because they have been able to access this memory. And this memory has told them things, has provided them perspective. Because as you notice, there's also light still flowing through it. It's not in darkness. So I'm not saying that those that are doing this are wrong, but understand they are just as concerned as you are. And I suspect they're coming from a place of love, but it may not feel like it. It may not feel like it on this standpoint of home. And I'd almost say the concept of what's happening is that home may need to be revised. It may be seriously needing a revision. And that's what's coming up here from the family bonus. Family is forcing a need for the revision of home. And it's not a bad thing, but home may need to be revised. All right. So let's go ahead and talk up here with this group. We've got the shell, and it's turned inward. So again, this is an internal aspect, which I think feeds energy into here, because 9 times out of 10, most family issues and home disputes are internal. But again, this is going to be less about the physical home, but much more about the emotional and spiritual. And the fact that we have the shell internal, inside out, which again, is going to be about the internal aspects. We have a couple of support bones. We also have the spinal bone. So there is an aspect of thought. And that's one of the reasons why I say this is going to be much more about the emotional, mental, emotional, and spiritual components of what's going on here that needs to be restructured. That is going to come from with some degree of grief, but it's going to need to be restructured. And home is going to get rebuilt. Home needs to be rebuilt. All right. Let's go up here up to the work bone now, which is sort of sitting off by itself. Now we've got the work bone, and right next to it is the dice, and it's showing for me that number 10 is up. So this means it's the 10th house, and the 10th house relates to career, goals, fame, success, achievement, and public image. So there's going to be elements in this next month that stand on their own in relation to your work environment. So there may be changes in your what you're working on and and the type of work you're doing, the goals you're working on. You may actually find that your work brings some degree of notoriety, and in that notoriety comes the questions about success, some elements about talking about what type of achievements are being done, and that public image. Because here's the thing: once somebody gets a public image developed, it means people start looking a little more closely at them. So they'll look at those achievements, they'll look at those successes, they'll look at what goals they have put out there, and that can affect both what you're doing for work, how you're doing for work, and why you're doing work. So we're going to be looking at that from the standpoint of what's going on at your job having that effect. And you know what's also funny, depending on what you do for a living and how you view your work and such, your work can also be your home. And I think there's a component there saying that whatever this happens over here, even though it seems like it's off by itself, it's still part of this overall universe, and it's going to trigger something over here as well. That may be part of the strife. That may be part of what needs to be restructured. Because especially if you have success here and it draws attention out here, it may start causing distress for those who never wanted to be in that fame and in that public image. But next month is going to be the start of this period. Now we go over here to this clustering of the support bones and the rib bones. Now they're also on the same side as spirit here too. And what we're hearing here is that this discomfort, the strife that we saw over here is something spirit wants, something that spirit is trying to inspire, but it has also got support. It is also coming from a place of rationality as well, because we got some of the spinal bone here too. So this is not mindless, but spirit is working, and it's going to work. It's kind of spread out, but it's going to bring those things that it needs to be able to make things move forward. Now this overall image, and what I'm going to wrap up on here, it kind of reminds me of if I'm looking again, I'm getting the topographical feeling. Here's a landmass, or here's a landmass. Here is some peninsulas, some islands, continent. So there's an aspect of the world. There's an aspect of the map. There's an aspect of, and all the red is the water. But there's a sense that the world is shifting, and that shift is going to be happening, and it's going to have a lot to do with what's going on for our sense of home and our sense of family, but also tied to our sense of work and our image about work. So that's what the ancestors and the spirits have to say for right now. This is Uncle Destiny. I hope you have a good fall. And as I said, I know that there's a suggestion of strife here, but remember that trying something new, working in and trying to face the difficult things yields great and greater rewards than just always taking the easy path, always trying to avoid. So there's work that needs to be done here, because frankly, to get to any of these land masses or any of these areas, it's going to take work to move there. So, I wish you well, and remember to take the difficult path. Ashe.